It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. We're taking a look at the current state of the Detroit Tigers, who are leading the American League going into the month of June. We'll talk about why that is and look forward to the dog days of summer for A.J. Hinch and company. Then we'll talk Detroit Lions football as OTAs began at Allen Park to get an early glimpse of some potential training camp position battles and more. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is David Jasinski-Drew, joined by Coach Andy Shield. We're going to be talking Detroit, State of Michigan sports today. A little bit of a hodgepodge, Coach. We're going to touch on the Lions a little. We're going to touch on the Tigers, certainly, at first. But it's good to see you, and you're sporting a shirt I like to see. They're playing.
We're same to you, Drew. Happy end of May here, last day of May. Sporting the Michigan Panthers shirt today. We're trying to climb that ladder, and we have the Houston Roughnecks today. I was entertaining, my son David and I going down there, but they're pulling back the roster. They're secured. They're in the USFL Division Championship game once again, and they will be taking on, I believe, the Birmingham Stallions once again. Yeah, and this is a team that they have just not been able to beat in this modern era of USFL and UFL football. So first things first, we finish up the regular season with Houston, kind of a non-consequential game today for the Panthers. Could be pretty exciting if we can get past the Birmingham Stallions in that USFL championship game. Could be looking for a championship football team by the name of the Michigan Panthers once again.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That's since 1983, and I remember that one very well. That was pretty awesome. That was our first championship team.
Yeah,
the 83 Michigan Panthers. And people might say, well, what big deal was that? There was a shitload of NFL talent in that league back then. That league was competing for the NFL, I couldn't rattle them off at the moment, but there were several rules, much like now, like the kickoff rule that the NFL uses is taken from the UFL. The NFL took a lot of rule changes from the USFL and implemented and made it a better game. It really did. It was good football. And this is really good. Rocky Lombardi's going to start today for the Panthers.
Former Spartan Rocky Lombardi finished his career with Northern Illinois, but he gets the start. They carry three quarterbacks. Bryce Perkins and Danny Etling will set today. Bryce Perkins is really the de facto starter. He's kind of been the foundational quarterback behind this season, which has probably been the best season for the Panthers to date. Last year was a very good one as well, but Michigan Panthers football is live and well. And if you're a sports enthusiast and a football fan, the Michigan Panthers is certainly a team for you.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. And got to go to a game with you guys a couple of years ago. It was Birmingham.
The first year out of the pandemic, lockdown down south when they played just in Memphis and Birmingham.
Yeah.
That was fun. And Ford Field's a good site for it. It doesn't fill up like a Lions game.
No.
And it's not going to. But it's really cost effective. You get a great seat. And there is, I would say, towards 20,000 people in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, or more maybe even. And it's certainly a good atmosphere and a great time to go down to Ford Field. And, it's been a good product for us too. Kind of a defensive product. For the most part, with this year, Bryce Perkins kind of being a quarterback that's been able to get them vertical, and their running game is the best in the UFL. They have the best running game in the UFL. So, Panther football has been fun. We had Jake Bates last year, bombing 60-yarders on the regular, and he transitioned over to the Honolulu Blue and Silver. So, that's kind of a unique one right there.
That's really cool. Yeah. And honestly, that's been a great move. Bryce Perkins, I think, is going to get a camp invite from the NFL after this season ends. He's played well.
I think he had a shot, if not a cup of coffee, with the Giants, I think out of college when he came out of Virginia. And then, I think he maybe was even, kind of a camp arm developmental squad guy for a couple of years for them, I think, even.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's made his way into the UFL as a starter. And, there's been a few quarterbacks that have come through the Panthers. Danny Etling's been around for a couple of years now. We have, like you mentioned, Rocky Lombardi is here now as well. But he does definitely seem to stand out. I'm very much in agreement with you. I think he is going to get a camp invite somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, none hurt, that's for sure. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, definitely.
Someone's backup quarterback.
Exactly. Well, Coach, let's talk about. We're going to talk Detroit Lions later. OTA started this week. We're going to touch on that, but first, we want to talk about the Detroit Tigers. And man, I mean, it's a busy slide, and I'm not going to keep it up there terribly long. But long story short. These are really who we're seeing as the hitting leaders, and the surprising name on the left side on the hitting leaders is Spencer Torkelson. You'd hope you'd see this from him, but man, at the beginning of the season, even last year, what a great season the Tigers had. He stood out in a negative way. He really regressed, and there was a lot of talk in the offseason that he was on his last leg, and man, has he turned it around, Coach. What have you seen?
Yeah, that's a story that's not unfounded in Major League Baseball. I mean, this happens to guys. Like George Brett was teetering towards the beginning of his career, and he kind of got brought up early, and the numbers weren't coming together, and he made some changes. Charlie Lau was his hitting coach for the Kansas City Royals. He made some changes to his approach and his swing and his put some different mechanics together. He's become one of the best left-handed hitters in Major League Baseball history. Spencer Torkelson came out of Arizona State, having beaten pretty much all the hitting records of Barry Bonds and Reggie Jackson there, and was the sight unsound #1 overall pick. Knowing that he did need to have a little seasoning for the Major League stuff, he did do some time in the minors. It was modest. And then he came up and was modest, had 34 home runs one year.
Yeah.
Looked like it was coming together. And then it just disappeared. And it just kind of, seemed like, he was going to go into this, he got into this enigmatic funk that's really kind of unexplained by even including him. And, it took the vast majority of last year to work through that. And we did. We went into the spring. We had a lot of conversations, free agency speaking. We so badly needed a right-handed bat. We swung and missed not getting Alex Bregman. What are we going to do? We need to move Colt Keith. Okay, we're going to get Gleyber Torres. We're going to move Colt Keith to first base. That's going to be a thing here. We need to still look at a right-handed bat to help us with DHing and that kind of thing, because it's not going to be Spencer Torkelson. He's going to be down in Toledo. The numbers speak for themselves. He leads us in home runs, RBIs, and OPS. The three biggest,
very good OPS.
Yep. Yeah. In those are the three biggest batting statistics today. Are those statistics. And Riley Green's right on his heels. I mean, Riley Green is right in this window. Kerry Carpenter is right into this window of guys that are chasing this. So there's a few other guys to make mention of that are having plus years at the plate. But one of the reasons why we're 38-20, and there are many reasons why, we are a very dynamic and sophisticated Major League Baseball club now. We are essentially, almost feels like to me, Drew, and I know this is kind of homerish talk to a certain degree, but I almost feel like the Houston Astros of last decade, 15 years, is now moved north to us. And I think that's what we're becoming, because Drew, and this is not the slide for this discussion, nor is this the platform for this discussion. It could be maybe for a different discussion down the road later this summer. This might not be the best product we've even put out there yet.
No,
as far as a lineup, as far as the combinations, the pitching has, been phenomenal, and we're going to get to that here in a few. But Spencer Torkelson has definitely been a linchpin guy, among others. Drew, what are you? I mean, Gleyber Torres is up here, and he's having really what looks like to be an all-star season. But he's having an all-star season. What are your thoughts?
Well, you touched on it. Spencer Torkelson was not really in the plans. They signed Torres to play second and moved Keith to first, like you said, and they were looking for another right-handed bat. And I'm not in Scott Harris's office, but it seems like if they would potentially had found another right-handed bat, it's possible Torque might not have even either been on the squad that started the season, or they may have been trying to shop him. I don't know, but it all worked out. But you said it. He made adjustments, and it seems like those were adjustments that, for whatever reason, were not made last year. Is it because nobody recognized it? Was he pushing back on it? Don't know. At this point, now in hindsight, don't care. I'm glad he did it because it's made a tremendous difference. The strikeouts are down, so that OPS is so big. I love the power numbers, but I really love the OPS. He's not a 280 to 300 hitter. He's going to hit about 230. Let's call it 240, which is about what he's hitting now, I believe. So
238 going into the last bat yesterday.
He's 242 now. So that's where he's going to be. But if that OPS is there and the power numbers are there, fantastic. But here, the other thing about Torkelson, and the people that said he should have been in Gold Glove consideration 2 years ago, I don't know what rock they were living under, what planet they were on, but no way. And last year, it did not improve much. This year, he seems to be a lot better over there. Certainly fielding the position and really making the scoops. He's gotten a lot better at it. You can see he's put in the work, and that's where it shows. Torres has given them exactly what they'd hoped for, maybe then some. He's leading the team in average and obviously on base percentage too. But, Coach, you touched on a couple other names. Let's talk about them because, it's not a two-man show. There's some other guys, and there's one name on here that's a huge pleasant surprise. Let's talk about Javi Baez.
Yeah, well, if we're gonna go with Javi Baez first, yet another name that was not considered to be a contributor. We were really juiced about Parker Meadows and what he can do for us in center field and the great things that he can do. The timeliness of Wenceel Perez. The versatility and leadership of Matt Vierling. These are the things that we're going to be, kind of carrying the torch. Jake Rogers being kind of that, rock steady guy behind the plate. Yes, his offense is what it is, but he's kind of a foundational piece here. And that goes along with, guys like Riley Green and, we signed Gleyber Torres and, we're going to do some different, with things like there. Kerry Carpenter being in that fold, of course, Scooble, and then, obviously the masterful work that we do with pitching. Nowhere mentioned was Spencer Torkelson. Nowhere mentioned was Javier Baez. Fast forward to May 31st, 2025. We're the best team in baseball with a 38-20 record. And Parker Meadows has not played this year. Wenceel Perez has just started it to play this year.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Vierling has barely played this year.
And he's on the IR again.
Correct. And Jake Rogers is now our backup catcher. All of those things were complete with none of those guys have factored. None of them have. Perez, it was great. He hit homered in his first at bat. I think it's the only hit he's had. No, he had a couple last night. He got back on track last night. But, Javi Baez, and I've gotten the opportunity to go to one game this year. I'm going to be going again on the 18th versus the Pirates. I went back in April, I believe it was the 23rd against the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
23rd or 29th, I can't remember. But anyway, it was a day game, Wednesday day game. We went with the good old Marine City Middle School kids, the Magnificent Mariners trip. It was a grand time. Beautiful day. 8th inning. Ball rocketed out towards center, trailing the right center field. It's heading towards the wall. Javi Baez makes a maze-type catch out there. Mm-hmm. This is before the one where he dove and it was an unbelievable catch out in center field. We're talking about Javi Baez out in center field, making probably some of the better plays that we've seen all year. At the position. for the Tigers. And look at his offensive numbers. I mean, 6 home runs, 29 RBIs. We're platooning him around a little bit. He's got a 769 OPS. That's probably 50-ish, over the league, above the league average for it. He has been a monumental piece towards this team's, emergence, as one of the best, if not the best in baseball right now. So for sure, Drew, I mean, I don't know what it really means. People say, oh, he'll opt out now. Those aren't opt-out numbers.
He can't. He's
they aren't. He's not going to improve upon his contract with those numbers. However, that works for us. I mean, the contract's the contract. It is what it is. It's signed. If he can contribute at this rate, we can have Javier Baez around here and not consider him yet for a buyout for maybe another year yet even.
Yeah, well, you can see starting to transition more to third base again, because the hope is now that I believe Parker Meadows is on a rehab assignment. So the hope is in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you get Parker Meadows back in center field and Javier Baez becomes your third baseman. Now, all of a sudden, you add an even more dynamic defensive player, which, to your point, Baez has been great out there. Meadows he's all that in center field. But then you have Baez's bat and defense at third base, and make no mistake, he's a very, very good infielder. We know that. That was the one constant we had with Javier Baez. The defense was always going to be there. But this is a beautiful thing with the offense. The strikeouts have been curtailed. That OPS, that indicates it right there. So a little more responsible at the plate. Riley Green has really caught fire in the last couple of weeks, and he's basically caught up to Torkelson, which is awesome. And then the defense for Riley Green is bar none out there in the outfield. He can play center or left field. He can play any corner outfield position. And then Kerry Carpenter, business as usual. He's just so dependable. I mean, he's been rock steady. You mentioned Jake Rogers now as the backup. Like Jake Rogers as a person and as a locker room guy and as a defensive catcher, I much rather have Dingler out there on offense. And Dingler has definitely performed well. He's been a very pleasant surprise. I mean, he's hitting 303, Coach, with a 794 OPS. He's played 42 games. He's getting it done. Can't drain all 26 players in a half hour here, but he's a huge part of it too. And you mentioned him.
Well, yeah, I think he's a borderline. I mean, people want to talk about it. He's a qualifier in regards to offensive statistics. He is. I mean, he's emerging towards it.
Yep, exactly.
42 games, 150, whatever you want to talk about. That's the best. He's the leading hitter on the team.
Yep,
is Dylan Dingler. He is worthy of discussion. And I saw him yesterday. I mean, he was barely safe off of a pitch. He threw a pick back across the mound to second base from his knees and just about picked him off. I mean, he has an arm. He can defend too. And if you want to look at it as like a goalie type, situation where if he went into the tank and they give Rogers some at bats and he caught fire, so be it. But the law of averages is starting to show us, just based off of what Dylan Dingler did also in Toledo last year, that this is probably the starting catcher. And Jake Rogers will remain with us. And starting catcher, backup catcher is not quite like it was when we were growing up, where that backup catcher played maybe 25 games, 30 games, maybe, did some pinch hitting or DHing a little bit, here and there to play maybe 50. But really we're behind the plate 25 or so games. That's more, he'll play more than that and significantly more than that at times. And Jake Rogers is definitely going to be out there. And he admitted, he goes, hey, as long as we're winning, I'm loving everything. If we're not winning, then then yeah, I want to play more. But that's kind of his mindset out there. Which is not a horrible mindset, to say the least.
Team player.
He is, like you said, a locker room presence, kind of a face of the franchise with his Yosemite Sam mustache and his antics and his kind of personality is that so very baseball. throughout history and that kind of thing. There's a lot of guys like Jake Rogers that you can hang your hat on, which are fun guys to be around. So, hey, I mean, yeah, we, like you said, Drew, we could go on and on and on about different guys and, the impact Trey Sweeney's had out there. Colt Keith does seem to be kind of coming through. He's having a bit of a sophomore jinx. But, all in all, we've got some guys that are in higher level. It reminds me kind of if we were to compare it to another era of Detroit sports, those late 2000 Detroit Red Wings teams where we have like 4 or 5 guys at the strongest respectable spots statistically on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Not they're top 20. They're towards even maybe a couple of them are in the top 10, but none of them are at the very top. And no one's, Aaron Judge is making that impossible right now anyway. But
yeah,
number one. But that we have like about 3-4 guys that are really in that top 25 range of producing right now in this league.
Yep, exactly. And the question coming into the season, the pitching, we're going to talk about that in about 30 seconds. The pitching you kind of assume was a given, was going to be there, and it has been. The hitting obviously exponentially improved in August through September of last year, because at the end of July last year, this team was dead to rights out, and they made an incredible comeback. The question was, will they maintain that, or are they going to regress? Well, they actually got better, and that's why they're the best team in baseball record-wise right now. And I would say I feel good about them possibly getting to the World Series this year. Winning it's another ball game, but there's a lot of season left to go. But in the American League, the Tigers, they played the Yankees already. They've been feasting on the East actually at this point. You can say they've kind of feasted on the Central, but that's not all White Sox either. They've been beating the Royals. They've been beating the Twins. The Guardians,
it was, that's a tough one for them.
That's
a match that's been tough for them.
Yep, absolutely. And then they played the West, and they've beaten Seattle. Yeah, they've beaten Houston. So, long story short, they're not just feasting on the White Sox. So, lot of story to tell in this season. But let's go to the pitching now, Coach. There's a name on there. It's not a shock. Tarek Skubal. He's doing his thing, and we'll talk about him in depth. But look at the wins leader, Casey Mize. And there's another pleasant surprise. You knew he was going to get the shot at the 5th starting job, and he got it. He's made the most of it. And he even had a short stint on the DL already this year for a hamstring, so nothing structural, thankfully. But Casey Mize has been on. But, Coach, what more can we say about Tarek Skubal? He's come his last start. I believe he threw 94 pitches, a complete game shutout, only 2 hits allowed and 13 strikeouts, what they call it, or affectionately known as a Maddox. And I believe he hit 103 on the gun in the 9th inning to end the game. Talk about Tarek Skubal right now.
Yeah, that is precisely correct, really. I mean, that's kind of Verlander-esque in his heyday. Although I don't know if Justin was touching 103. He was more like 100, 101. But I mean, Tarek Skubal right now is every bit. Right now, I'm just saying, is in what we have is every bit of everything that we ever had in Justin Verlander. He is just on top of the world right now in regards to his game and his delivery, his health. All of it is just percolating perfectly for him. Now, in order to be, 2 things need to happen in order for him to really kind of, I guess if you want to say supplant Justin Verlander is the top pitcher in Tiger history. There's a few other guys too that he will have something to say about that. I mean, he is a little bit new, but what we have right now, what we're seeing is as good as we've ever had in our 125 years, playing this game. That said, it's got to stick around for a while. It's got to stay healthy. And oh yeah, by the way, Chris Illich, it needs to remain in Detroit.
Absolutely.
It needs to remain in Detroit. I'm going to pass the torch to you on this, Drew. Tarek Skubal needs to have an extension from the Detroit Tigers in order for us to continue this level for an extended 5-6 year period of time. And I'm done with that. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's homegrown. He's a 9th round pick, so an absolute gem. And I'll give Al Avila credit. He drafted him.
100%.
Very, very good eye there. Now, who expected this? I'm sure Al Avila would even say you don't expect it, but you saw potential, and he's reached it. If we're talking about Tarek Skubal like this in 5 years from now, he's definitely in that conversation that we're putting in. But I hear you. Statistically, at this point, he's as good as Verlander was at any point with the Tigers. It's, if we're saying it 5 years from now, then we're absolutely. But yeah, I agree. Chris Illich's got to re-up and extend this guy. It's going to be a massive contract. We know that. But at the end of the day, those postseason dollars roll in, and all is right with the world and the Illich household. So compound, so they'll be happy with that. You got to get a guy like that. You can't let him walk. Just like in Pittsburgh. I mean, I hear it all the time. They're just waiting for Skeens to get to hit free agency. He's gone. But the Tigers haven't operated that way, at least under Dad, the late Mike Ilitch. So I would hope that Chris would ante up in this situation. If you're going to spend, this is where you got to do it. So if you're not going to spend on the free agency market every year big, then keep your homegrown talent. So I'm not going to think doom and gloom yet on this one. I'm going to say
no, I'm either.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens. To me, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. He's had some injuries, but nothing that significant that would make you say, oh, maybe low red flag. No, not really. And the way he's throwing now, there seems to be no hints of any physical deterioration whatsoever. If anything, he's getting stronger. So, yeah, they need to get him back in the fold for long term. There's no question about that. Coach, I want to talk about some other notable pitchers here because there have been some guys, Jack Flaherty. Now the record's not great. He's actually struggled a little bit with the long ball in his last couple starts, but the whip's there, the strikeouts are there. He's keeping the ball down in the zone, but I noticed some he's been making a few mistakes up in at least in the middle of the strike zone. He's never making it high in the zone. But a lot of players have just made some really good swings on him, and it's not like they were necessarily hitting bad pitches. They just got to him a little bit. I think he's making some adjustments. Last start was sharp, but it's good to have Jack Flaherty back, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. I mean, if anything that you can get over on the Los Angeles Dodgers is a good thing. And we traded. He came here, and really all of these pitchers, Skubal included. I think he came here last year from St. Louis to get right. So we can, our pitching coach, Chris Fetter, can get his hands on him and get him right, and he did.
Yeah.
Just like Michael Lorenzen did a couple of years back. The guy is the best in the game, and we I think have the best coaching and managing in Major League Baseball is here in Detroit. The Hinch
hard to argue
group is the best. And that's certainly something that could be talked about and should be talked about more. Are the just how good those guys are. And so we help get Flaherty back rolling. He's a great tradable commodity. In the trade deadline time last year, we traded into Los Angeles for Trey Sweeney. Trey Sweeney, we call up. I was there for his major league debut with the Tigers. He's there with Jace Young. Versus the Texas Rangers. And we were there, and I believe it was like August 16th. It was a Friday night. And he was part of that miraculous climb into the postseason and had, was the starting shortstop the whole way. Pedestrian offensively, but phenomenal defensively. Well, look who's our starting shortstop now. And oh, by the way, look who re-signed with the Tigers. Jack Flaherty. So we basically, were given our starting shortstop by the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's how fruitful things are for them there. But he really has struggled this year, and it's tough when you pitch behind Tarek Skubal. It's very tough, and he does. He's the number 2, and he comes in, and it's been tough. I mean, he's coming from the right side as composed from the left side, and he's just not quite as dominant as Tarek Skubal. I mean, you can think of it yourself. You were a pitcher in your day. If following up a guy that could really throw and was tough to see and had a lot of strikeouts and that kind of thing, if you know, there's a good chance you might not quite be like that, and it might be.
His name was Jim Heslop.
So I mean, like, there's that he's contending with too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, command has been trouble. A lot of times he has to resort to giving up a lot of plate to hitters, and there's been a lot of extra base hits and stuff like that Jack Flaherty has given up. But like you said, it's kind of it's rounding itself out. The law of averages are taking into effect, and Jack Flaherty is a very good pitcher. It's kind of coming together. We need Jack Flaherty to be his best September, October. So that's, August, September, October. That's when we really need him, clicking, and cooking with fire. So Reese Olson, I was that game I was talking about, that San Diego game back in April. He pitched a gem. He was just superb. 7 innings. I mean, he was phenomenal. And his numbers are super, super steady. And Jackson Jobe, he's really done fine. I'm not sure who wrote it. It was one of the it was an article in one of the papers. It might have been John Nio about, the Tigers can really afford, we can afford to kind of have Jackson Jobe go through his growing pains while pitching for the Detroit Tigers, sort of like Rick Porcello. Back in the earlier days. Jackson Jobe's a different pitcher than Rick Porcello. Porcello was kind of a JV light, maybe not quite the velocity, but a kind of a stuff type pitcher, where Jobe is, more of a Scherzer type. He's going to pound at you and beat you. And I'm super excited for him, and we need to make sure that flexor is taken care of. We want him good and healthy. Tommy Kahnle, to call him the closer, that's just not how we do it, really. I mean,
Will Best has 8 saves now, so he's leading the team in saves. So Kahnle's now number 2. So you're right.
But I mean, but Kahnle, look at those numbers, and we acquired him to be this. We acquired him to be like this. This is what we acquired Tommy Kahnle to be. And then you had mentioned Will Vest, guys like Brant Herter, Cody Lee have now emerged. Bo Brisky, is one of our chaos friends. Montero's still here, doing his thing. And we've got Brebbia now. That's part of the pitching chaos crew. And of course, Tyler Holton. All of these guys, Drew, speak to that. Speak to the names of the guys and the really what gets us through. So many of our wins are these players that we aren't talking about with slides. We talk about what's known. You hear it now. We know it as pitching chaos. That's what we were calling it last year around here. Now because it's, the Tigers are kind of a national spectacle and model, they're calling it controlled chaos. I think that's coming from ESPN. But what's your insight on that?
Well, yeah, last year, and the reason why I really thought they were dead in the water was they had only 2 starting pitchers going into August of last year. So it wasn't a bullpen start every 5th game. It was a bullpen start the majority of the time. And now that you have a full allotment of starters, and yeah, we pretty much had every one of them on these slides. Mize is leading the team in wins.
Yeah, there's another name. Yep. That we like a Torkelson Baez that we wouldn't have expected to see.
Yeah, Skubal and Baez, Skubal and Flaherty and Olson. Yeah, we expected Jobe. They're winning games with him. He's 4-1, even though the ERA and the WHIP aren't quite what we want him to be, but they're still winning games when he's in there. So he's getting the innings and he's getting a better feel for it. The only thing I think they really, I don't know if they lack it, because let's think back to the 06 team, because a lot of people are comparing. I mentioned 1984. This is not the same team as the 84 team, but they're very similar to the 06 team and how they were constructed and how players are emerging. JV emerged in 06. Tarek Skubal emerged last year. So I see it more of a correlation there. But then going into those Leland years, they even though they had Valverde, it was like they just didn't have that one arm in that bullpen was going to shut the door, and you knew it. They got a lot of different options there. And that's why I really, like you said, Brisky, Vest, and Canley, any one of those guys could easily close. I mean, Brisky can throw 100. Now, that doesn't mean anything because Matt Anderson could too, right? These guys can pitch. They all can pitch. As a fan, I have very much high confidence in everyone that goes into that in any game at any given night for AJ Hinch, and I think they're going to do their job. That's what's so amazing about this team. It's not that there's necessarily so like you said, there's no top 10 guy statistically on this team except for Skubal, but everyone's doing their part. We're talking about everyone, not just to drain the roster, but because they've got different guys doing different things and leading this team statistically. So I'm really excited. The future's bright. The dog days of summer are coming, Coach, but they're in good position right now.
Yeah, health is going to be huge. Health is going to be huge. So we're not over dependent on guys like Andy Ibanez, who's just so crucial to our success, and players like that, to where they get overextended and kind of then become maligned because, again, they're great pieces, and the way the decisions are made for the Tigers, the way lineups are constructed, the way this game execution and management is done, is so numbers based. And, once you take a player out of that faction, those numbers then change because you're going to become over dependent on, said players. So that's got to happen. And, I had mentioned the Job injury. It's the 15-day, is what we're looking at. That could wind up becoming 30. They're going to they'll err on the side of caution with him. Oh, yeah. They fully expect him back, and it's spooky to hear it, and at the same time, it's all depending on how you look at things, glass half full or glass half empty. He's expected to pitch back in 2025 still. It's like, well, it's not even June.
Big.
Great. I mean, we talking like the last two starts of the year or last 2 weeks of the season? What's going on here? No, I don't think that's that. I do think it's fair. They can't put a date on it. He's going to pitch June 20th. I don't think they can say that. Mm-hmm. But what they can say is that, hopefully sooner rather than later, because, they're going to want to go slow. He's probably going to head over to West Michigan or Erie or Toledo to get a little rehab work done too.
Yeah.
So it's just not baptism under fire. So, I mean, at the earliest, I would expect him back at the end of June. I'm thinking more mid-July is what I would expect to see him, back. But I mean, an injury to Skubal or a Casey Mize, who has been great, and he's been a great innings guy. He battled with control a little bit yesterday, but nonetheless, he got through it. And Jack Flaherty, Olsen, who we've been concerned about, last year he did get hurt. And we have some guys on the, it's where we don't even talk about Matt Manning anymore, because he's kind of that kind of down the ladder a little bit. But Sawyer Gibson-Long's back. He's given us innings before. We've just brought up Dylan Smith, who I'm kind of excited to see. He's a bullpen guy, and he will be somebody that would factor into those pitching chaos moments, and because he's been phenomenal since getting put into the bullpen. So excited to see him. He could fortify things even more. So if we did have to go into more of a pitching chaos mode, we even have more arms, Drew. So
yeah,
I'm super juiced. Now, we wanted to talk about 40 minutes about the Tigers. Here we are, 39 minutes and about 15 seconds. You get the last 45, sir.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. It's their 38-20. Like you said, they're leading the American League. I don't know if they're ahead of Philly still, but regardless, they're leading the division. They have a healthy lead. 5-6 game lead over Cleveland. That's important considering they lost 3 out of 4 in that last homestand series. To your point, they're winning. I see this team. They're winning a lot of series. They're taking 2 out of 3. They're taking 3 out of 4. Yeah, they've lost a couple series, but for the most part, they've been winning their series. They out of the gate they were 0-5. Going
Yeah,
in.
lest we forget. Yeah, that's true.
So this team's been 38 and 13, or excuse me, 38 and 17 since this. I'm sorry, what am I?
15.
38 and 15 since the first 5 games of the season. So and then they started out in LA and Seattle. So and Seattle's a pretty good team. They took one there and then they were able to get them back later on. But yeah, I'm very excited about them, like everybody else is. I don't compare them to, like I said, too much to any other teams, but I do see a lot of similarities to the Leland group from 06 that we saw through 2013 that was very, very successful. Not saying there's a Miguel Cabrera on this roster, but there's a Tarek Skubal on this roster, and that's huge. But everyone's doing their part. I think you're a football coach, but anytime you see everyone doing their job, not everyone's a superstar, not everyone's the top home run hitter or whatever, but you're contributing, and somebody's contributing in every statistical category. You can say there's another name. It's very cool. So excited to see the rest of the season. To think that they won't be in the playoffs. Now that's a long shot. To me, this team's absolutely needs to make the playoffs and will make the playoffs. It's how far will they go this year versus last year, we didn't even think they had a chance, and look what they did. So it's very exciting. But we're gonna switch over to Allen Park, Coach. We'll go back to football, and I know that's the wheelhouse and foundation of this podcast. And we're gonna talk Detroit Lions, get some off-season updates because OTAs have started, Coach, and there's a couple notes early on. What are some of the things that you've been seeing?
Well, yeah, it's good to see, Aiden Hutchinson back and participating in what appears to be full strength. And we know he's cleared and things are good there. We aren't going to get a true test until you can see him come off the football and see how well that thing is healed and if he's still got that kind of burst. So that is exciting to see, and it's happy. I know Jamison Williams is once again just has shown to be making huge strides. They got, his training efforts this offseason, I guess, are very apparent. He's physically much stronger and even more explosive. So, is what's believed. You may start to see, what hopefully at least for a year or maybe 2 years is, a Tyreek Hill type effect to the Detroit Lions offense, which would certainly make up for Ben Johnson. Because Ben Johnson never coached Tyreek Hill, and he was on some of the greatest offenses that we've seen the last several years. Sans Miami, I know things have soured, but we're not talking about that Tyreek Hill. We're talking about the Chiefs' early Dolphins Tyreek Hill. But I think, what you're alluding to here, both on offense and defense, where I think the eyes are the guard situation and how that's kind of unfolding, Drew. And, yes, the evolution of Ennis Rakestraw as a corner and where it appears he's starting to see kind of more of his reps kind of evolve from and how those defensive backs are shaking out. What have you seen with Tate Ratledge, Drew?
Yeah, it's interesting because it looks like early on Mahogany's getting the majority of the left guard reps. And from reading, Ragnow's not participating in OTAs, which we know what Frank Ragnow has, I'm pretty sure. So he needs to rest up. They need him for the season. Glasgow and Ratledge have actually been rotating at center. So we knew Glasgow could play it, but it's nice to see Ratledge getting reps early on in OTAs. That's a positive. More versatility, the better you are, right? But it's been Ratledge, Glasgow, and Iowasika at right guard rotating. So the depth is there. The versatility's there. That's very encouraging. I obviously best man's going to win the job, but at the end of the day, no matter who it is, you've got depth, and that's what encourages me. I don't care if it's Tate Ratledge this year or not. If it's Graham Glasgow this year, that's fine. That's okay. That doesn't mean Ratledge didn't play well. It means Glasgow's still got that much gas left in the tank, as far as I'm concerned. So that's how I look at it, Coach. But that unit, losing Zeitler is a concern, but now I feel a little bit better about the depth.
Yeah, and if the Lions were playing the Houston Roughnecks today, they wouldn't need to even have these players probably out there to beat that team. But anyway, if that was the case, I think your starters would be Glasgow at center, Ratledge at right guard, and the aforementioned Christian Mahogany at left guard. That would be those three starters. Frank Ragnow not participating in OTAs, and you know that he's of that window of time and of that structure of his health, where the less pounding, the better on Frank Ragnow, and that's why he is not there. So when the season starts, yes, I see it the same way. I see Glasgow being your super sub that can play three different positions out there, and you'll see him, and we'll have the youth at the right guard and left guard spots, and anchored by the All-Pro Frank Ragnow. That being said, you mentioned Iowa Sika. Kobe Sorsdal's still here. We have another guard that we didn't even talk about that we drafted in Zach Frazier. So, I mean, who's going to be around, or Miles Frazier, I'm sorry. That's going to be around for sure. He's going to be a future guy. I mean, so there's probably some players we just talked about. Dan Skipper, who can line up at guard as well. There are some players that we've talked about, and Giovanni Manning. So, I mean, we've got, and I know this is not the say goodbye to Kobe Sorsdal episode of the Sports Peninsula podcast, but to me, Drew, that kind of feels that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't have drafted Frazier, in my mind, if there weren't doubts, or at least that they didn't want to at least create positive competition.
Maybe that's Iowa Sika. Who knows? Maybe that's the guy, but one of those guys are going to get squeezed. I just feels like to me.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa Sika he's played both. Obviously, we've seen it. He played a little more at left guard, so he's certainly very good insurance behind Mahogany at left guard if needed. We know the tackles are Decker and Sewell, which is beautiful. And Skipper is kind of the super sub backup for, not super sub, but really the backup for both of them, because those boys don't leave the field if they're healthy. So, it's really encouraging to see the interior lined up. I like that, kind of going back to Rakestra, he's getting some reps because Arnold's not participating in OTAs. There's several players that aren't for various reasons, and that's okay. But he's looking good. And I believe it was Jack Campbell even said at one of his at a presser after one of the practices that he noticed that he stood out to him. So all good things, right? I don't expect him to start this year. You've got DJ Reed, you've got Terry and Arnold, you've got Robertson. So he would have to really show out, or they'd have to be, God forbid, an injury, which, like, go figure, the Lions haven't had any of those on defense. It's still encouraging to see him, because he is going to be counted on, if not this year, definitely next year. Next year, Rakestrow's got to be a starter at some point, whether it's in the slot or on the outside. He's going to be likely on the outside. So it's good stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, just to comment on Ennis Rakestraw, I mean, I don't think there's any lack of desire there. He was an off corner, at Missouri, and he was statistically the best off corner in all of college football. They were demanding of him of things that he just didn't do a lot of in Columbia, Missouri. So it wasn't asked of him. So there was a learning curve, and it was a pretty steep one, I think, for Ennis Rakestraw, and he struggled with health as well.
Yeah,
he is going to remain somewhat of a periphery player in that secondary. You had mentioned, the de facto starters until either injured or otherwise are going to be Terry and Arnold and DJ Reed. Our slot corner, and he did a very, very good job of it, is Amik Robertson, and he's really probably corner number 3 when it's all said and done. If something were to happen to Arnold or Reed. So then who goes into the slot after that? Well, that's when they can start doing some different things at safety with their players that they have there. They could move Branch into there and get Avonte Maddox onto the field. They could put Avonte Maddox into that corner spot. And there's another player it's eluding my name, that they have that could also factor in to that to the slot corner, safety type of position, and then there's Ennis Regestraw. So Ennis Regestraw does seem like this, for this run. Yes, you had mentioned he's getting most of his reps through these OTAs at outside corner, in the absence of Terrion Arnold. Is that his long-term future? I am not so sure. I think he could thrive as the slot corner. I think he could thrive there. So that being said, he will, have to kind of emerge and continue to grow. But it is certainly a good sign, because we've done some different things with defensive backs, bringing different guys in and addressing it still kind of in the draft and through, UDFAs as well, that, because you got guys like Dan Jackson and then Ian Kennelly, the great Eisenhower Eagle, Ian Kennelly, that is, in camp as well. And Dan Jackson really appears to be a guy that's going to make the team as a safety. So, we there's some other defense, corners they've brought in as well, through the UDFA market. It kind of was a little lowbrow to me. Are we looking to kind of, insulate Ennis Regestraw? But I don't know if that's the case. I think he's a guy for the future.
Yeah, you're right. There's, you mentioned Avante Maddox, certainly. Thomas, Rock Yassin is in camp
there
too.
You go. There's another guy that could very well be that. Rock Yassin, who's a guy that's played some slot corner as well, and so I mean, he is somewhat insulated. He is somewhat insulated at the time being. But like you had mentioned, we've got, we need to incubate him, because the future for him is his time.
Absolutely. The linebacker situation, Campbell's good. I guess he had a minor hip procedure in the offseason, he had mentioned. So he took reps. He took some reps, though. He do mostly walkthroughs, but he's there. He's ready to go. I know Rodriguez is a little ways away yet. I think Derek Barnes is going to be ready for camp, though, I believe. So that's a positive. On the what's that?
You got Zeke Turner.
Yup, exactly. And then we already know Aleem McNeil likely is going to be on the short-term IR or at least the preseason PUP list. Probably not going to be ready till after the bye week's week 8. And we'll talk about the schedule in a little bit here. So he might not be ready till after that bye week. And then Mekhi Wingo is also coming off an injury. So you got Tyleek Williams now, that a fine player out of the Ohio State University, is going to be able to get a lot of opportunities to play alongside DJ Reader. And then Davenport's back with Hutchinson, who's back, which is a fantastic thing.
Khalid Muhammad.
And he's already showing he can make some plays in OTA. So lot of positives here, a lot of positives. And also the young man from Boise State they drafted. He's going to definitely get his fair for his shot. Hassanin, yep, Hassanin.
And then Alex Anzalone is not there as well right now. So and he's doing things somewhat kind of the veteran way. And we'll see what his long-term prognosis is with the team. His health will be a big factor in that. His health will be a big factor. If he misses any time this year, it may kind of spell the time to kind of look at things a little differently. But
the one thing
he's not into the linebacking core yet either. So
yeah, exactly. The one thing I'll say about Anzalone, the injury last year was the broken forearm, which was kind of a fluky play. It wasn't a joint injury, a knee or a shoulder or something like that. So that's a good thing. And they missed him. He definitely made a difference.
He was a huge piece of the Aaron Glenn run defense. And he is kind of one of those team leaders out there. He came along with Campbell and Glenn from New Orleans. And he's been a huge piece. That's not to try to malign him in any way.
Oh yeah.
But, time is awful to NFL football players. It's absolutely awful and not always fair. And we are probably heading towards Alex Anzalone's time being up, probably as a player pretty soon. And if not just with the Detroit Lions, the market's going to dictate that. Are we just going, and we'll talk about that. That's not for this episode. But for the time and now, yes, Alex Anzalone is a big deal and a starter. and a very, linchpin piece to that linebacking core. So, I mean, we've done some tweaks and added some players too. But, Grant Heward and some of these guys. Yep. But, that is a guy that we will be depending on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before we sign off, we got about 5 minutes left, but, just taking a look at the schedule, not going to drain it, but, we were talking before the show. A lot of people think, oh, they finished in first. That's why their schedule's so tough. No, it's actually just bad luck. They happen to be playing the AFC North, which that division, I would argue, is at least 1B to the NFC North in terms of every team being playoff caliber or certainly a playoff contender. That's a tough-ass division. They're playing the NFC East. We know 3 of the teams in there, well, at least 2 of them, Philly and Washington, are pretty good. Dallas is not going away, and the Giants are there, but they're probably they might struggle this year just because of the depth in that division. But then there's only 3 at-large games that really are predicated based on where you finished. Unfortunately, that is the Rams, Buccaneers, and Chiefs. Those are tough games. They have a tough schedule, but I love Coach Campbell's responses to this. It's like, hey, they got to play us too. And it seems like the Lions they're still well thought of nationally, but they're almost like they're not the hot thing now. It's Philly, it's Washington, rightfully so. Very good football teams. Philly's the defending champs. Baltimore, of course, and Buffalo. Detroit's up there, but they're not being mentioned as prominently because of how the end of the season went with the playoffs. But that's still a 15-2 team with guys they were picking up off the street, in essence, as free agents for the better part of the second half of the season, Coach. This schedule be damned. It is going to be a trial by fire. And you're, as a football coach, you answer this for me, please. This is obviously you don't want to always play every game where you're playing just a juggernaut. But at the end of the day, does that not make you a better team and ready for postseason activities?
100%. 100%. And we've seen it time and time again. In high school football, it really shows itself that way. There are a lot of teams that can get to an 8-1, 9-0 record, 7-2 record, all the time, but they're kind of it's paper. I mean, it's it's not necessarily stocked with battles. It's it's kind of paper stuff. And once they do play a team that maybe they're hosting them because they have a lesser record. But that team is quite a bit better based off of the competition that they had all year. So, yes, it will season us. We have to stay healthy. That is what the Detroit Lions have to do.
Yes.
We have to stay healthy. The foundation of our schedule will always be the Pack, the Bears, and the Vikes. It's always going to be that way. It's those 6 games that or really kind of make or break the Detroit Lions. And then, there you go. I guess sometime in September through October, we're going to join the AFC conference because I think we play 4 weeks in a row, AFC teams. So, I mean, Dallas is on the schedule again.
Right.
I don't know why the NFL wants us to play the Rams all the time, but that's getting old, by the way. I really do think it's been a long time. It's been a long enough time now.
But it was it was weird. It was an at-large game 3 seasons ago. It was they played the West last year, and then it happened to be an at-large game this year again. So that's how they were playing the Cardinals every year for a while. Their coach it's
the Bucs too. This is 3 years in a row with the Bucs.
Same thing. It's crazy. They traded off each division. They played the South one year and played the West another year, and then the at-large game happened to be those teams. And it sucks because those are damn good football teams. And then you add to Stafford. That's always going to be a thing. But I think it's less now because the Lions have beaten him multiple times, including that playoff game that you got to be at that first round game 2 seasons ago. So
I've been the last 2 of them. I worked that the overtime game last year as well. So
that's
it's I don't know. It'll always be a thing the week of. I guess it'll be a mention.
Mm-hmm.
But we've moved on from each other, and we have. Ultimately, when we get our Lombardi, we'll truly have moved on. And there'll be, no matter what, whether we do or we don't, there'll be closure on that thing when he retires and comes back and his number is put in the Ring of Honor, because it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Deservedly
and he
so.
will be once again celebrated. We're going to share him now. And I don't even want to look at it as sharing him. It's not about Matt Stafford. I don't care about that. He played for the Detroit Lions like a bunch of other players did too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guys that are ours are the Calvin Johnsons and the Barry Sanders and the people that didn't play anywhere else. Those are the Lions, Joe Schmitz, these types of guys. So I mean, all that being said, he'll be celebrated once again, as he should. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be fun to see. And it's going to be fun to see him, maybe, affiliate with the Lions a little more one day sometime again. But that's so NFL and so NBC and so Amazon and so ESPN and so Fox to try to keep that, Detroit versus everybody, or in this case, Detroit versus Matt Stafford thing alive.
Yeah, but it's fun to be on top. And then the Lions certainly were record-wise last year, and we're looking forward to a great season this year, much like our Tigers right now, Coach. So thank you. It's great to talk sports with you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks for subscribing and liking the videos. We love your comments. Keep them coming. We like to hear what you think, what you got to say. Catch us every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESPN Network on Roku. For Coach Andy Scheel, I'm Dave Druzinski, better known as Drew. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESPN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one, Sports Peninsula Podcast.